A tragic accident changed the course of his life forever. For most, it would have begun a life of discontent and wallowing around in self-misery. For Jonathan Nadeau, it kickstarted a new chapter of inspiration and appreciation. Even though he lost his sight permanently, he gained a passion to put creativity first in all areas of his life. And now, he wants to encourage you to do the same. There are times when you'll be faced with a choice. Be crushed by the weight of the situation, or use the fresh start to rebound bigger, better, and more inspired than ever before. This is Tornado, stories of those who refuse to choose defeat and instead chose to embrace the storm. Here's your host, Jonathan Nadeau.
Greetings and salutations. Thank you for joining us. We've got yet another exciting episode for you here on Embrace Your Storm. My name's Jonathan Nadeau. I'm your host as always, and with me is Diana. She submitted a film to the Tornado Film Festival called The Shootist. So Diana, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
It's my pleasure. So before we get into The Shootist, I like to ask everyone that I have on is, how did you either get involved into film as your creative outlet, or why did you end up choosing film as your creative outlet? What brought you to this, where we are here?
Oh, God. I'd have to go way back. I don't know, I guess my mom always liked cameras and stuff, so we always had them around the house. And I would just pick them up and I would mess around with them. And I mean, she had me modeling diapers when I was a baby.
So mom was trying to make you the next Gerber baby or something.
I don't know. Like, I did some ads for some department stores. I wish she kept the clippings. But yeah, so I've like always been around cameras, and I was in the drama department, starting from junior high. It's when it started at my school, and I wanted to go behind the camera, but I think maybe like my junior year in high school. There was a telecom class you could take. And I just went in to pick up a friend. We were going to go somewhere. And she's like, oh, meet me in my class. I went in there, and they were taping like a 3-camera show. They had a little setup for 3. I don't know if it was like a news thing or something. It's high school. Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, just go into the technical room. And I went back there, and they're like, oh, we need a technical director. Can you like press buttons on this board? And I'm like, sure. Okay. And I sat there and I TD'd like the show the whole time, and I had nothing about TDing. I mean, I knew about being behind the camera, and I knew how to, like, I recorded stuff the whole time, but I didn't like ever look at this technical part of it. And acting, of course, I knew in front of the camera. And so I just fell in love with it, and I took the class the next semester, and then all through the end of high school, and I ended up applying to USC. I didn't get in as a freshman because I had bad grades, because I never went. I didn't go to school. It was just boring to me, And so
that's what
I went to my drama
That's
class.
Probably the most Southern Californian kids say that.
Yeah, do we? See, they got to do something to make it interesting.
It's like, do you want to go surfing and skateboarding, or do you want to go to school? Like,
I guess maybe. Yeah. So it is boring sitting in a classroom all day with beautiful weather, I guess.
I hear you.
And so my first couple years of college, was easy for me because I did go to a hard school, like a really like top school in California. And so college was a breeze. And so with my grades, I ended up applying to USC again. And I got admitted into the film school production, cool. Which is, it's a hard major to get into.
Totally.
A lot of people apply.
Totally.
And I don't know how I got in. I think I just found a back door or something. They made a mistake. They're like, how did you get in? But I'm serious. I'm just in there with like valedictorians and like total studious nerd types. I'm like, oh my God, I do not belong here.
I hear you. But, I get that feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess when I put my mind to something and I want it, I get it. I just find a way and I get it. And I did that with film school. And so I learned everything I wanted to learn. I learned how to shoot a film. I mean, they really teach you a very good technical background. They don't teach you how to fund it. They don't teach you some very important stuff, but it's like you will come out of there and you'll know how to make a film like you could do one by yourself.
So
literally.
So you said
Yeah.
growing up, your mom had cameras and stuff.
Hmm.
Were they more still cameras? Like, did you actually go through like
Oh no,
learn how
video
to?
cameras.
Oh, okay.
I had still cameras too. I had all the little digital cameras and like do little photo shoots in my rooms with my friends. But we would take I had like toy video cameras. I would take her real video cameras, and
That's
she just
funny.
had them. There were 6 kids in my family, and so my mom just had the video cameras so she could record us kids.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It wasn't like she was into doing professional videography or anything like that. She just wanted to capture her children. And that's what she did. And she didn't care if I took the camera and played with it and filmed with it and
That's
stuff.
cool.
So she's
Yeah,
pretty good about that.
my mom had I might be dating myself here, but my mom had a camera back in the 80s, like a VHS camcorder. So like, you
Yeah, the
know,
big ones, I've seen them.
exactly. Yeah. So you would
I think I
take it.
bought one recently off like eBay. I bought one of those and I bought a VHS like the little, what do they call them? The players. I
Oh
bought a
yeah.
player and I bought a big camera.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
VCR. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. For fun.
That's funny because yeah, like I said, my mom in the 80s, she had one of those, and you take the VHS tape and put it in the camera, and it'll record onto the tape. So like I'd always like I wouldn't say me and my friends would write things out like and make short stories, but we would hit record and just act like a bunch of idiots in front of the
Oh
camera.
yeah.
Like,
Oh
like
yeah.
it was so much fun. Like I can remember like driving down the street like with my bicycle with like I would take the handle to the camera and shove it in kind of like my bicycle like handle grips, and I would hold it that way, and I would just ride around doing like a my own kind of dash cam or whatever.
Yep.
I guess you
Because
know
you only had GoPros back then, right?
for real.
Oh my God.
But
I
yeah,
had one that was more like handheld and I threw a lot of parties when I was in high school and just like home, like at house, like kegers and stuff.
yeah,
And I used to take the video camera out and record part of it. So I have some
yeah.
crazy
I was
tapes.
gonna say those are tapes you don't want the public getting a hold of. I tell my kid,
I
I tell my kids, thank God YouTube didn't exist when I was a kid. Like
oh no.
there'd just be videos you wish you could take back on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh God, I know. I feel sorry for kids born right now. It's like, well, even like 10 years ago, their whole entire life is going to be put online. Anything they say, like,
seriously.
it's like, come on, let's people like, there's got to be a delete all button. Like, okay, we can forget that happened.
Where's the delete the internet button?
I
Where'd
know,
that
like
go?
every single person's party file has to be like archived for time in memoriam. Come on. Sometimes things are better off as stories. They sound more epic
Exactly.
too. Because
Exactly.
as I think of like all the epic parties I had, and if I go back and I review some of those tapes, I may not think they're as cool. I might be like, this is kind of lame. It's like I just leave them in a drawer.
There you go.
I don't take them out.
So then now, so after you went to USC and everything, like you obviously made the shootist here. So like
Yes.
what was kind of in between, graduating and stuff like that and bringing you to the shootist? Like what kinds of things have you done leading up to the shootist?
Um, let's see. I produced a film called No Time to Fear, and that was sold internationally. And so
That's
we
cool.
took it, yeah, we took advantage and we kind of went to like all the little film markets because
Mm,
it was still part of my education, even though I was graduated and stuff. You didn't learn about film markets, you didn't learn about all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. And so we went to Berlinale, Cannes.
Yeah,
What
it's all the
else?
big
I think those
ones.
were the major ones, yeah. And so
Yeah.
we like to go to Sundance. Went to Sundance a few times. So although I didn't have it, there's no market at Sundance. That was just like I wanted to check out the festival. But so I learned a lot about that, like the sales process, and I met a lot of different distributors. And so now, I just kind of was building up my network doing that. I also acted in some films. So like knowing people from who work on the films, just from, when I was doing my own and student films and then professionally, um, they knew I could act. And so like this, I wasn't going to go back into acting because I didn't like being treated like a piece of meat, which is why I
Mm,
pretty much stopped doing it.
mm.
But yeah, it's a casting couch thing. It was real when I was younger. Don't know if it is now, but whatchamacallit, uh I would have friends, they'd call me up and they'd be like, come and play this part or come read for this director. And so then I just started doing it again, and I've always loved it. It's not that I didn't love acting. I just didn't like the whole cheat, like sleaziness around
Yeah,
how
I
they would
hear
treat
you.
people.
I hear
You know,
you.
and they treat young men like that too. Like I know guys have had issues, but and so you know, and I'm one of those girls who like they talk about this whole Me Too thing. Me too, me too. It's like, yeah, but you're the chicks who took the deal.
Right.
People like
Right.
me told him
Right.
to F off. Like I didn't even realize at one point I was being groomed. You
No
know, I thought the
kidding.
person was, yeah, this guy was like, oh, you can be like able to like walk in a room naked and da da da. And I started laughing. He's like, yeah, well, I can introduce people, but they're gonna want like blowjobs. And I was like, I would laugh. I'd like, oh, you're so funny. I'll just buy him a hooker. I'll just buy
Right.
him a hooker, and then they can give me the part. I don't mind. I'll pay for their hooker. And so yeah,
That is awesome.
I stopped being groomed, I think, at that point because I didn't know it was real. And then this whole thing came out. I'm like, oh my God, I was being groomed. I had
They
no
were like,
idea.
wow, this chick doesn't get it. Like,
Yeah, I just didn't get it. I was so like naive to it that someone would
right,
actually be like, I'll give you a part in a movie if you suck me. It's like, what? Like,
right,
why would you like to me, I was like, why would you do that? Just like they'd probably be lying to you,
right,
first of all.
right.
Like, why would they give you the part? I didn't know they were actually giving people parts. And even if I knew that, I would have never done it. But it's just kind of like, what? It's just so stupid to me. Like, why wouldn't you hire someone who's going to enhance your film?
I hear you.
Why would
I
you
hear
do
you.
that? And then I do see a lot of bad acting. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
So
that's how bad acting spreads.
yeah. They're not related to someone. You know, if
Right,
they're related to
right.
someone, they don't have to do anything. But so anyhow, so I wanted to go behind the camera, but then I ended up back in front of it again, just because I had friends who would pull me in because they knew I could act. And you know, I'd end up booking those parts. I'd read like for the director, and I did like this Elvis film that I don't even know if it's out yet. I did it like years ago,
No kidding.
and then I just started, you know, doing both behind and in front of the camera. And I recently decided to get work with. I never worked with an agent, like I did when I was like younger, and I did a little bit of modeling, but I didn't work with a real acting agent because
Mm,
so all the parts I got were just myself, word of mouth,
like word of
maybe,
mouth. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and some were submissions like where I would just submit, and you know I'd be like, oh, you know, this sounds like a cool film. I want to make a reel, so I want to do this part, and I'd end up booking the parts and stuff, but never with an agent until I think recently I got an agent, and so now we'll see where that goes as far as acting. But when it comes, I mean, with the strike
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
right,
yeah,
right.
that's on pause. Yeah, that's great. I feel sorry for all these actors who like. I hope they're getting residual checks
I
to
hear
keep them
you.
going for the next 6 to 18 months or whatever they're planning on it. But yeah, and so I just, you know, I've always had it in my blood. I like creating art, and I think film is the best way for me personally to express it. I'm not, you know, I can't. I'm not a big like. I never got into drawing.
Mm,
I did, you know, as a child, I would draw like horses and crap, but I'm not like any really good at it.
yeah,
I'm good at like finding an image and, you know, working, you know, finding the best framing and making it look beautiful, and then working with actors and bringing out a performance from them. Because I am very empathetic. Like I'm an
mm,
empath pretty much, and so I like know how to get pull feelings from people and kind of put
that's
them in
cool.
situations. Yeah, and so so I yeah, that's just something I don't know. I just feel like um, some people are built for some things and other things they're not. And that's kind of my artistic expression, the medium that I think I do the best in.
So do you prefer to be like behind the camera and kind of controlling things that way than you do being in front of it?
Depends. It really just depends on the part and the situation.
Okay.
Um, like I love dramatic parts, but I love filming. But you know, as an actress, that's what I
Yeah.
love to play.
Yeah.
But what I like to film is just like, you know, sci-fi blow. I might USC, the teachers there used to hate me because I'd be like, I just want to blow shit up. And they're like, no, you need to be an auteur. And I'm like, yeah, but I can be an auteur while blowing shit up.
While
You
stuff
know,
is blowing up, I can.
like I can see the beauty in the way the flames move, you know, I get it. Like it's to me, it's amazing. And so I did have to like go through and learn like how to put story because now I write, you know,
Yeah.
and I had to like I had to grow a little to learn like why people want to be invested in characters and to make my characters fuller and have arcs and like why would people care? They have to care.
Why people
when it
care
blows up.
about things being blown up.
Exactly. So, and a lot of people, they would hate, they would hate me because I'd just be like, yeah, but we have to make them care about, I like the blowing, the big scenes and sci-fi
Right.
and all the action and stuff. And a lot of people in the like academia don't respect that at all. Even though when they're going to go to a movie, what are they going to do? They're going to watch shit blow up.
Exactly.
It's like, come on, let's just be real. You like it. Yes, I also love movies that have high drama. Like I loved Interstellar. They weren't blowing shit up, but they had a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it was very dramatic. I'm trying to think of one that didn't have any sci-fi or anything that was recent. That was like an emotional movie. Trying to think of what I watched. I can't even think of one right now that's recent. I can think of older ones. Like what did I make it? It's taking me a while. Precious. Remember, there's a movie called Precious that swept the Oscars, and that movie tore me apart. That was a great film. It was a fantastic film. Monique did a fantastic performance, and she deserved that Oscar. But so there is films like that are high drama that I do love. But am I going to go see Precious in the theater, or am I going to see the new Star Trek movie?
Right. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Because I want that big screen. Precious I can watch at home, and if no one will catch me dropping a tear in the theater.
So I guess that it's funny hearing more of this about you, because then that knowing a little bit about the Shootist, then you're this is like a sci-fi / Western kind of short, right? So like so it's cool hearing how you feel, like what your approach is to movies, because like now
but I'm a fanatic.
Now that I know a little bit about the Shootist, so tell the audience a little bit about the Shootist now that they kind of know this about you. Like what I guess I'll interject this. The one thing that I like that you said about this that I thought was really cool is, I had all this stuff lying around and I wanted to do something with it. Like that's a really cool way of utilizing whatever it is that you have, that's in your control or whatever, out of the gate. Because another thing that I'm going to ask you at the end of the episode, and I don't want you to answer it now, but this is an example of I ask you to what advice would you give to someone that's starting out? And this particular situation would be a great piece of advice. Like, hey, I had this stuff lying around and I used it. I wasn't like, oh, I wrote this screenplay and I don't have any props, or, it's just cool how you're just like, you know what? I got this stuff. Let's do this. I have an idea. Let's make this movie. So that's really that's what really caught me about this Shootist. So again, I'm taking all these words out of your mouth. Let me give you time to talk about it here. So what did you do with the Shootist?
So the Shootist, I'm into special effects. I didn't mention that yet, but I know how to work with them. I took one of the higher level special effects class when I was actually at USC, which is where I started. Cool. And so I wanted to do some special effects tests. And I've always been into sci-fi and Western. So, and I've been in some Western movies. And so I had props like the gun belt and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I'll do a sci-fi Western and I'll get to test some ground cracks, and some fire. And you can see it in the film, like the ground is cracked and there's fires going. And so I grabbed my friend Ethan. He's an actor that I know really well, and I was like, "Hey, Ethan, let's go film something. You want to be in a short?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, actually, with him, I think I said it was just a test. I was like, "Let's go. Will you help me do a test?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll help you with anything." So that's Ethan's down. I love Ethan. And so we went up there and we filmed it. We went and found a really cool location, some cool rocks and stuff. There's a location not too far outside of LA called Vasquez Rocks. They filmed like Star Trek and stuff there. A lot of stuff gets filmed there. Okay. And we just kind of went there and did it. It was a test at that point. It wasn't meant to be more. And after I got the footage and started working with it, I was like, I'm going to turn this into a short because this is fun, And I made a little bit of a story to it once I turned it into a short, because the whole thing was it was supposed to be about a guy who's not good at shooting, and then he finds the ultimate gun.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And if you see in the beginning, it's a short film, so it's hard to catch everything, but there's a sign that he's shooting at and he can't quite hit. It's and it's for a shooting contest. And it's yeah, that he wants to be in a shooting contest, and in his head he's hearing people tell him how awful he is. So that's what makes it so cool when he like gets his little prize at the end. And so the story just evolved from that, because I was just like, oh, I can put this here, and I just ended up extending cuts, and because we shot, even though we weren't there very long, I shot a bunch of angles. Oh, and the worst part was I forgot to bring all my batteries for the camera.
Oh no.
when you're like a one-person crew, it's so easy to screw up. I had my reflector board, I had my stuff, and I'm like, we're not going to shoot audio because we'll just do it with no dialogue. So I made that part easy, but and I had all my little stuff, but I forgot the darn batteries.
Man.
So I had what was in the camera, and towards the end, like after luckily we got a lot done, and I think I had another camera that had another battery that had a little juice in it. But when that one of them died, and it in that I had a Blackmagic cam, and with that, what happens is when the battery dies, it corrupts the file.
No, it does not.
Yeah. So
that is a bad flaw in a camera right there. Oh my goodness.
That's what was happening to me. I don't know if it's everyone, but it has happened several times.
That is terrible.
So, and so every time the battery would die, I was like, shit, that shot is gone. But I didn't know it at the time. I would just be like, oh, just turn it on, shoot again. Right. When I got back and I reviewed the footage, I was like, we don't have that shot. So luckily I shot a good amount that I was able to still put it together and not have to go back. But that was a little frustrating. It's like, oh my God, these are all trash. But it corrupts it. You can't play it. I tried so many ways to save it, and it just was a total waste of my time, because you just can't once it's corrupted. If someone else knows how to do it, please DM me. I have no idea how to get those files back.
Man.
But not fun. But now I don't forget my batteries anymore.
What? So then, did you add the fire and the cracked ground? Was all that sort of CGI? Did you
everything?
Do that that's cool.
Everything. That's anything cool. that looks like it's a prop, except for his gun and gun belt. No costume. All the costuming was there, but anything else, like the sign, the crack, everything else, the cracks,
no kidding.
It's all CGI. And there's one scene where a guy bikes in the background, and I had to remove him. And there was another movie shooting across the way with a parachute guy hanging off of one of the cliffs, and I had to take that out at one point.
No kidding. That's funny. That's funny.
So
did you do all the effects on your own computer, or did you use a more beefy? Okay.
Yeah. Well, my computer's beefed up. I have a lot of RAM in it and stuff. I use it for effects. So yeah.
But it's not. Because I'm a computer guy, and I know those effects need a lot of oomph to get them going. So that's why I was just wondering what did you use to render all the effects?
I just used one of the newer iMac Pros.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was surprised because I had the tower before that, a tower one.
Yeah.
And I'd have to soup it up and put extra RAM and all that stuff. And the iMac Pro was way faster. I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I upgraded to this. And I have to upgrade it again already, though. It's getting to the point where I need to upgrade it. I upgrade every 2-3 years anyways.
Yeah.
But I just make sure I have enough RAM, because if you have to have a minimum of 128, if you can get double that, it's a very minimal
128
from my test. Yeah, but I do 128 minimum.
That's
and then,
funny.
If you go over that, you can, but it's it doesn't make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's because you won't see.
But you always have,
That's crazy.
But and then hard drive space. It's
did
crazy. 128. I don't know. To me, that's normal.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's normal for you, but I mean, the average computer probably has 16 gigs of RAM, and you have 128.
Oh,
Me, I'm running. I run 32, but I don't do video editing. I just do audio editing and stuff. I could maybe bump it up to 64, which is still only half of 128. So 128 is crazy. I always laugh about it because I'm just like, that's so much RAM. Like, who uses that much RAM? It's so crazy. But you definitely
Some
need it.
people,
Yeah, no, you definitely need it with that type of stuff.
it makes a
That's what it's there
huge,
for.
huge difference. Yeah,
Absolutely.
huge
Yeah.
difference. Going from like 64 to 128 is
Oh
like
yeah.
night and day.
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
And
totally.
16, I can't even imagine having 16. I feel like I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
mean,
what I'm
you wouldn't
doing.
be able to do any actual work. I mean, you could just do normal
No,
computer stuff, but that's about it.
I could word processing.
Exactly.
I could open
Exactly.
like my, Excel spreadsheets. That's about it.
So do you
But
use
yeah,
Final
no.
Cut then?
I used Final Cut for a very long time. I like Final Cut Pro. Premiere is a little too, I don't know, it's just a little too touchy. It's not really my cup of
Okay.
tea. But I use After Effects, so it's not like I don't use the Adobe
Well,
products.
that's what I was wondering what
I
you're
do.
using for the effects. I didn't know if Final Cut had effects like that built into it or
Oh
not.
God,
Or
they have some effects in there, very minor stuff, and then they've got color correction. I don't use any of that. I just
okay.
like how simple the cutting is for editing.
Yeah.
However, it's getting there are more and more bugs with round tripping to DaVinci for color correction.
Mm.
So I bought like one of those little editing boards, and I'm going to try and train myself on DaVinci for editing. I don't haven't liked it for editing the few times I've tried it, but I'm like, maybe it's just because I don't know it.
Mm. Mm.
And so I'll see if I can use DaVinci instead just to make my round tripping easier. But for like, if you just want to like pick up something and edit and it's easy, Final Cut's just so easy. Like people will be like, I use my iMovie. I'm like, Final Cut's so easy. Like why? Like
Yeah.
I went into iMovie once just because someone had it and they wanted me to look at their file. And I was like, oh my God.
You're like,
I can't do
what do
anything
you
in
do
here.
with this?
I know. It was like, you can't do it. There's no functions. Like, how do you do this? You can't do this kind of trim. You can't do, forget it. I was like, no, I will convert it to Final Cut. So Final Cut like has everything you would need. And it's like a $200 program. It's like,
Yeah,
come on,
yeah.
guys.
And
And there's no subscription, which is nice.
so then you did you say you use After Effects and that's what you use for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
okay. I
I
wasn't
use,
sure if you could use those without using Premiere or not.
yeah, you can.
Okay.
I mean, Premiere probably has some stuff built in where like the actual After Effects project you can plug into your timeline, and I'm sure people love that because then they can go and they can fix it. But um, but no, I just use After Effects on its own, and I'm very used to it because I've been using it for a long time. So I do like the way it organizes things. There's some people like there used to be programs called like Flame and Inferno or something like
Oh
that, and
yeah, I remember
those.
those. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you go into DaVinci, it does have an effects panel, and it does kind of look like those programs that people used to use. Or they might still use them in bigger effects houses. I don't know, but they're not popular. I know that. And so like they had a nodes. They use nodes is what's called nodes. It's like on a little screen, and it's got little boxes that you can connect to each other. Whereas After Effects is more like it has a timeline on the bottom, and like each effect
Okay.
has its own place on the timeline, and you can organize them up
That's
and down.
cool.
And so it's just I like the way it's organized for my brain better. I now nodes I use very well when I do DaVinci. So for some reason my brain can handle it with DaVinci, but it doesn't like it with effects. So I don't know why I'm like that. But
Did you say you learned effects in school? Is that what you said? Did you have a
yeah,
class? Okay. Okay.
yeah, USC. I took an After Effects class, and they go through and it went like through the book. It was really boring. And then I took there was a like an older system. I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of the higher end systems that the studios were using, and it was a graduate class. And even though I was undergrad, I got an exception to go into the class because of all the stuff I already knew.
That's cool.
So yeah. But yeah, because it's like I want to do effects films. I need to know effects, right?
Yeah, no,
Um,
exactly. So what was the
so
shootist your first film you really messed around with effects then? Or
oh no, I did
no?
all the effect. I don't put my name as the effects artist. I use a pseudonym. I go
Mm.
under like I use Chasing Valentine.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
it's a bizarre name, but that's still me. And plus like I don't want my name like all over the credits, Diana. It looks kind of lame. I'm like I don't care. I'm just gonna put a different name, and now it looks better.
There you
But
go.
because I am about design. And that screws up the design, right? My credits are going to
Man, we need to get some different names in here. Like,
yeah, it's like it doesn't look good. We have to put, design it better. But and so like I did all the effects on the first feature film I did, which was No Time to Fear. That one I had like a car hitting a girl and all sorts of stuff.
no kidding. That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. My sound guys, like we went for the sound mix to Jupiter Sound. David Kitchens over there is really cool. And he, like him and his guys were like, they had the film up on like a big TV when we walked in to go over stuff. And they were going back and forth and they're like, how did your effects artist do this shot? Like, did she lay on the car in slow mo? And like, we're going back frame and frame and we can't figure out how he did it. And I'm like, I have no idea. Because I don't put my name in the credits. But it was me who did it. And I'm like, I'm not telling you.
That is funny.
It was funny.
So then with the shootist, like there's more of the time, because I think you said this short film is very short film. It's like a couple minutes long or something, right?
One
minute long. So a lot of the time probably more went into like the editing, doing the effects and stuff like that. Then I would imagine, right?
Oh yeah. Like we did maybe a few hours of shooting. I think 3, maybe 4 tops. 3, 4 if you include lunch, and then I don't even want to say. I don't know how long I messed with the post because I was just doing it around other projects. Okay. And so I wouldn't work on it. I didn't work on it solid. Okay, so probably like several month process, but spread out across like different days here and there, and like whenever I had time. Yeah. So it wasn't all like a linear one shot deal. It was just spread out. But that's how you do it. If you're doing a film with like where you're not spending any money on it, and you're just shooting what you know, and you're doing something because you love it, then you find the time. And it's not necessarily going to be like, oh, I can take 2 weeks and do nothing except work on this. And if you can't do that, doesn't mean you can't make the film.
Exactly.
You just spread it out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. So I guess leading into that, I do want to ask you then, like, what kind of, advice would you give people starting? Like one thing another interesting thing I find about your kind of creative career is you went to USC. You said you loved it. I've interviewed other people that are just like, I didn't go to school. I just jumped in and did it. So like, what would you say that you liked about going to school, and like why? I'm assuming you would suggest for people to go to school. So like, what would you have to say about that?
I don't necessarily suggest that people have to do it. It just depends. Like I had to go to college because my parents insisted. And so I'm like, well, if I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go for college for what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
One of the main things I would tell my mom, I was like, I don't need to go to college to do this. And she was like, they didn't go to college. They really wanted their kids.
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
Both of my parents, my mom really wanted to go to college. She had gotten into UCLA.
Oh, and, no kidding.
Yeah. And her mother refused to pay for it because she said women didn't go to college.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Your mother must have crushed her.
Yeah, so it's like saying no to her.
Yeah, it's right. You're crushing her on the other end. She got denied going to college. Then her daughter she
doesn't want to go.
Right, exactly. She's like, oh my God, I can't win.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, I'll go. I'll take it out all this debt just to make you happy, Mom. But it depends. Like I think. The one good thing about going to SC is you're in an environment that's very conducive of creativity, and you're getting to work with all the big stuff. The sound mixing room is like, it's huge. It's like a real like sound mixing stage.
Yeah, like a real studio and stuff.
Yeah, and you have access to like real stages. You learn, like cinematography. I know left and right because I know like catwalks, and I know a lot of the terms too. I'd be on a set, and like the director would be like, "Oh, these cinematographers are speaking a different language," and I'd be like, you don't know what a stinger is? And it's just kind of like because they didn't go to film school.
Right.
But you learn like all the terminologies, and you learn like the big stuff though is what you're learning. If you don't care about that, and you don't have to, you're not required to, things change. That might just be relics, in 10 years, who knows?
I hear you.
But you gotta get an education somehow. Either you can fast track it with access to equipment and learn all the bigger stuff, have access to all the stuff you need. Or you can just go out and spend money and, make a film and put your money towards there instead of college. So it's really up to you. And if you want that network, or you go to school, if you want the network, if you are a good little networker and you can make your own, then maybe you don't need it. So there's pluses and minuses on
there
either
really
side.
are.
And everyone's journey is personal. So it's like, and we have great filmmakers who went to film school and great filmmakers who did not. And it's one of those things that it's an artistic medium, and everyone's going to come from different backgrounds. It's actually one of the most like collaborative art forms on the planet, with people with such different backgrounds, and both like knowledge wise and financially, and geographically, like everything's like, I don't want to use the word diverse, but it's so how to put it, you just get such a variety.
No, you really
people
do. Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this to someone the other day, saying well, I could never be a writer for many reasons, but the first one is I'm terrible at it. I'm lucky I spell my name right half the time. But
okay.
but like, as a writer though, if you write a script, it's like you're putting so much trust in so many other people you don't even know, because like you
make the movie.
Because you're like, here's my story, this is my baby kind of thing or whatever, and you find a director, producer or whatever, like, okay, make my movie. Then you find actors and actresses that are like acting out these characters that you created. So it's like you really give up so much to like get that thing on the screen. It's really,
to be
really
a writer,
crazy.
You have to be the kind of person who's okay with giving up that control, where you're like, here's my outline, now let's see what you can do with it.
Right.
Let's see if you can make it better. Let's see if you can bring new ideas to it. You have to be a little more like open about that. But like recently I've been more angling towards a writer director, because at first I was like, oh, let's get other people's scripts, let's do this and that. And now I'm like, and it's not a control thing. It's just, it makes it, maybe it is a control thing because then I own the copyright, I own all the shit. But maybe it's that kind of control thing, but not like where I have to, like, I could easily take someone else's script and do stuff with it. Like Lost and Found, I didn't write that. But I'm focusing more towards stuff I've written. So I always had written scripts. Unlike you, I've always been a good writer. That's the one thing my teachers would hate me for in high school. Like, I got pulled out of a room once by my English teacher, and she's like, you are such a good writer, but you are such a screw up. I was like, well, am I going to get an A then? So yeah, that was the best. I still like have her image, like Mrs. Barbaric, I think was her name. But
that's awesome.
And so yeah, like,
you're such a great writer, but you're such a screw up.
But the thing is, I actually, like, I didn't get mad about that. I was like very like touched. I was like, oh, she recognized it. She like thinks I'm a good writer.
Yeah,
that's awesome. The screw up part, I was like, yeah, well, I already know that. I don't give a shit. But I was like, oh, okay, I'm a writer. But and so, like, I've always, which is probably what got me into USC, honestly, was my essays. But
totally, yeah.
They look at writing. They consider that like a lot. But I finally like got to the point where I could, because I have a bunch of scripts, but I never finish them. And I never polish them. I will start it, and I've got like a million ideas written down and some outlines of things, and so I got to a point, I guess, finally, where I started finishing them. And I'm like, okay, now. And so once I finished I had this one it's a horror Western supernatural.
There you go.
Yeah, it's called Homefront. And I finished it, and I'm like, and I polished it, and I'm like, oh, this is really good. And I did a bunch of drafts of it, and I kept coming up with things. And I think, and the character problem I had before, where I just want to get to the action. So I'm really good at writing action. Like I've always been like, that's what my friends from film school be like, you're really good with action, but you need to build your characters. So each character is based on someone I know, who's an actor or someone I know. So like a lot of the quirks they have and stuff, I kind of like, I could visualize them doing it in my head. So it was easier for me to put that in the script. And which is kind of cool because you have a face,
Exactly.
And that one I submitted to film festivals, and it's won some awards. It won some categories in like other film festivals. So
that's cool.
It's gotten more than I would expect for a horror film.
Yeah,
it's pretty much a horror film, and it's like, oh, really? So they got into this film festival, what? And so, yeah, because I didn't expect that for her film, but I'd still like submitted just to see what would happen. And then I ended up writing like I remember I was taking acting classes over at Beverly Hills Playhouse because I wanted to kind of sharpen my skill set. And like in the breaks, I was writing a sci-fi comedy,
No
like a modern
kidding.
day sci-fi
That's
comedy.
funny.
Yeah, yeah. It's about janitors who really want to go into space, and they work at see, even the premise. I mean, come on, you got to write that. And I grew up in the Pasadena area in Los Angeles. I don't know if San Marino, Pasadena. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's where the Huntington Library is.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And it's a very small town, but JPL is right there. And so
okay.
I had them working like as janitors at JPL, and then of course there's like aliens abduct them. They stop an invasion, and it's really like raunchy humor. So I kind of, because I love raunchy humor, I'm kind of
There you go.
I'm very very immature when it comes to humor. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to grow up anytime soon when it comes to that. But
well, I guess that's another lesson. Kind of embrace kind of who you are, or whatever. When it comes to your creativity.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I went through a time period, I think, where I was worried about hurting other people's feelings, not hurting their feelings, but making other people feel uncomfortable. And so
Yeah.
I just like wear sweats and like try not to be noticed. And after a while, and they still were the same level of uncomfort and had the same level of uncomfort. And then I'm like, okay, these people, their problem's not like you're not causing them to be
Right.
uncomfortable
Right.
or unhappy. They're just like that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
do whatever the hell you want. like
Yeah.
don't change who you are because you think you're helping someone because you're not. The only person who can help people, like when it comes to those kind of emotional things, is themselves.
Totally.
And
Totally.
I'm not a paid therapist, so it's like not, it's like it's just all I'm doing is giving myself mental problems, trying to help someone else's. So
I hear you.
yeah, I just because I never like before, there's just like one little point in my life where I got like that because like up until that point and afterwards, I never really cared what people think. I'm like, I don't care what you think about me,
Yeah. No,
I
I
like
hear what
that
you're
you're
saying.
happy. I like that you're happy, and I don't judge people, so don't judge me. But
Right.
I'm gonna do what I do, and there's gonna be people who love it, and there's gonna be people who hate it, and
Yeah,
you can't control
exactly.
that. So
Exactly.
yeah, and the only thing you control is what you do, and if something makes you feel good and you like it, as long as it's not illegal,
Right. Right.
do it. Yeah, as long as
As
it's
long
not
as no
illegal
one's getting hurt,
or
we're
hurting
good.
someone, you should be able to do whatever you want. Just don't, infringe on someone else's.
Those are the words of Frank
Yeah.
Zappa right there. So
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Well, he was very smart. I agree with him. But yeah, no. So like, yeah, just do what you want. If you like, blowing shit up, blow shit up. If you like drama,
Yeah.
do it. And you know what? If you like both and you want to switch in between, do it. I have another script I'm writing right now that's about the fentanyl problem in Central California.
Mm,
And
mm,
that's a drama.
yeah.
But I of course have some weird effect scenes in it, but because that's just who I am. But like, why are we so limited to one thing? Like, this is the whole point of doing like writing, filming,
Exactly.
acting, exploring different things. Like when I act, I don't play the same part all the time. Those you get
Yeah.
cast similar stuff, but you have to walk in each person's shoes.
Yeah.
It's like an old Indian saying. My mom used to tell me, like, you don't know someone until you walk a day in their shoes. That's an
Exactly.
American Indian proverb, whatever it is. But and it's true. Like when you act, you get to walk in so many different pairs of
That's true.
shoes
That's true.
that you get to actually understand people and know them more,
Yeah.
and turn you understand yourself more. It's kind of nice.
That's
And it
really
helps with
cool.
directing, and it helps with writing. It helps with everything. So
Well, I guess that's almost a great way to kind of sort of end the podcast here. Diana, I thank you so much for the shootist and submitting it to the Tornado Film
thank you, Jonathan.
Festival. And I appreciate your insight on a lot of things that you said too. I hope the listeners take away from your insight. No, for real. Like you had a lot of great insight, so I
Oh, that's
appreciate
sweet.
that.
Thank you.
Is there
Cool.
any other final words you have for the audience before we wrap things up?
Just go out and shoot. If you want to make films, just go out and do it.
Yeah.
Find a way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my opinion too. When it comes down to the end of the day, it's like the only person stopping you is you, kind of thing, you know? Like, so
You've got a cell phone, it's got a camera way better than
seriously.
cameras back in the day. So just
Seriously,
go out and shoot it.
you know what? On another interview, we were talking about that with the person I was interviewing. They're like, you know what? The camera on my phone is way better than the $20,000 camera I had 10 years ago. You know,
It's true. It's true.
You know, there really is no excuse for kind of holding back or not doing things. You know.
Oh yeah. Like we shot No Time to Fear on, I think it was, we had like mini DV or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Some Panasonic.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting a red, so all the pickups were done with a red. And but the main film was shot on the other camera because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
And my cell phone now shoots in 4K.
Exactly.
You know?
Which is it's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
And you could write your script out on your cell phone if you had to, if you didn't have a computer. It's
if you want like your thumbs take, go for it.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I again, thank you so much for your time, Dana, for coming on.
Thank you.
And everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and don't forget to embrace your storm. See ya.
Tornado with Jonathan Nadeau. If you haven't yet, please subscribe now so you're first to hear new episodes with more stories of inspiration about the highs and lows of life and how embracing the storm is so much more fulfilling of a life than being crushed by the weight of the world. And until then, we hope you're inspired to do something, whether it's creating, participating, or learning, whatever leads you to your personal passion.